Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you also very much to the organizers for inviting me here to present today and to speak about the European Testing and Experimentation Facility for Health, AI and Robotics, bridging between AI research and new products. So first, a few more words about myself. I am affiliated with the Charité University Hospital in Berlin, Germany. This is the main campus with the main patient ward building that you see here. And there I'm acting as the Director for International Affairs. As mentioned already, I'm leading the European Testing and Experimentation Facility for Health, AI and Robotics. And I'm a researcher. I'm director of the so-called brain simulation section. So it's not stimulation, it's simulation. We build avatars of real human brains and simulate them on a computer. And this is just one example. It's my own brain. Yeah. So it's also my own head without hair. You might not recognize me, but that's me. And here you see a simulation. So we can not only simulate the activity in the brain, but then we have models to also simulate the activity one would measure, for example, with an electroencephalogram or with magnetic resonance imaging. And we can look deep in the brain. As you can see here, these are my deep structures. And of course, this is highly private information. And we can get a lot of insight from such data. Yeah, and I just give you two examples how such digital twins of humans can be used. The two recent studies, number one, published this year in Nature Communications by our group. There we have built 776 such virtual brains of individuals, and we simulated them and understood how the structure of these different brains influences the dynamics, the activity in the brain. This is cool and tells us already a lot. For example, how learning is coordinated, plasticity, changes of the brain are coordinated in individuals, and how these processes vary between individuals. But what is even more interesting for us is not just knowing the dynamics of activity in these digital brain twins, but really understanding cognition. Yeah, and this is another example how this is now possible with such digital brain twins. This is from last year, Nature Communications publication, where, as you can see here, we have built 650 such human brain avatars. And we use the individual structural connectome of the individuals and plug in functional circuits that then can simulate real cognitive functions. As you can see here, they are plugged in different parts of the brain. And depending now which host brain we use when plugging in these functional circuits, the performance varies. Yeah. And with these digital twins, we really can capture the varying performance and decision-making tasks of these 650 individuals. And we can see how different degrees of interactions between these the colored regions, so the purple and the turquoise region, changes the performance. So this is also schematically shown here. We see how depending on the synchronicity between the regions, the decision-making performance is changing. You can see this number here. And also the reaction time is changing. The beauty now is that with these complex mathematical models, we are able to understand the processes, the mechanisms underlying the differential behavior. And this is a phase space diagram that tells us exactly why the individuals are having different performances and decision-making and different reaction times. So with these really complex mathematical models, a lot is possible. But as you can see from these two examples, there's a lot of private information contained. And there's a big potential to use these applications also for patients, for example, patients with cognitive decline, like in dementia, but many other brain disorders, including mental diseases. Yet, since the models are so complex and there are very few experts actually in the world who really understand them, the question is how trustworthy are these models? Yeah? How reliable, how robust? Are they really not biased for certain groups of people? And these are serious questions. If you want to use such an application for patients, it's important to know how reliable the application is. And Europe wants to become leading in producing trustworthy AI, where all these different aspects of trustworthiness are being controlled and certified so that the people in Europe are safe when they use such systems. This is a challenge, and many regions in the world, seeing now the power of AI systems, are calling for regulations to control AI and to enforce trustworthy artificial intelligence. Europe has provided the first regional regulation to enforce trustworthy AI with the AI Act that came in force on August 2nd. So we have now, as the first region in the world, such a regulation that has a purpose to ensure that the people in our society are safe when they use such systems. Yet trustworthiness is a big word. And in order to certify or test trustworthiness of AI systems, we have to operationalize it. And therefore, there's a classification of different aspects of trustworthiness in the AI Act. We here show a couple of those aspects like human agency and oversight, technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, transparency, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness, societal and environmental well-being, and accountability. And these are many different categories. In order to test for these categories, first we need the standards that presently are still being developed. And second, we need the protocols that then put the systems to test and generate results that then are used to assess the level of trustworthiness in these different categories. To do this, a lot of input is needed. So first of all, for testing purposes, we need data. If we want, for example, to check if there's bias in a model, then we need to test the model with different data inputs. But we also need the infrastructure to do all the testing, physical infrastructure, for example, robotic operating rooms, or intensive care units to put the devices to test, but also virtual infrastructure to do all the computation with highly sensitive health data. And to support this, as mentioned in the introduction, the European Commission introduced the testing experimentation facilities. They are mentioned in the AI Act, so you will find them there. They are one implementation instrument of the AI Act. There you find some definitions and explanations, and the main purpose of the TEFs is to provide technical and scientific support for providers and notified bodies. And as also already mentioned, I, with the Charité, am leading such a TEF, the Testing Experimentation Facility for Health, AI and Robotics, which is funded with 60 million euros, half by the European Commission, half by the member states for 5 years. But after the 5 years, this infrastructure becomes sustainable, so it will persist and support AI providers and certifiers in the long term in Europe. So now the AI Act foresees different risk levels for AI systems, which are shown here with this pyramid. There is a minimal or no risk, transparency risk, high risk, and unacceptable risk. And it's important to understand that medical products, if they contain AI systems, are classified as high risks. And with this, they need to go through conformity assessment before they can enter the market. So on top of the medical device regulation assessment, we now also have the AI Act that requires additional testing before medical products with AI systems can go to the market. There's a really big need because it concerns all medical products that contain an AI system. And we as TEF-Health now are pulling together all the services that are needed to facilitate and speed up the certification, CE certification for such products. And this is basically showing the major categories of this flying wheel that accelerates moving the products from the lab to the market. We have a single EU-wide entry point, TEF-Health.eu, that you can enter via our website. And there you will find, I show you a little bit later, a knowledge graph where you can discover many different services that are offered by different providers to help certification. And often a combination of different services is needed in order to reach the high TRL level and the certification that allows you to go to the market. So here you see the different categories. Of course, we do a lot of consulting in terms of AI and robotics competence, but also supporting clinical trials, providing access to physical and virtual compute infrastructures. But another important part is to provide access to health data. Excuse me. And also to develop new certification schemes that allow more agile certification that is appropriate for AI software systems. And finally, we are also working with the standardization authorities that develop the standards for which the products will be tested in order to make sure that the standards are meaningful and provide exactly the benchmarks and references that are needed to assess trustworthiness in such AI systems. This is our present consortium. We are comprising now 9 member states. As you can see here, Germany is in the lead. Other associated members are Belgium, France, Italy, Portugal, Slovakia, Sweden, Czechia. We just had last week in Portugal a big public event, which also was streamed. So if you are interested, you can go to our website and you will find the stream there. It was quite interesting because also the European Commission and some of the member states were providing their perspective on the next steps for implementing this AI Act. We have quite an impressive consortium presently with 52 members. In the long term, the goal is to be open for new members. Yeah, at the moment we are still a European-funded project, but we are exploring the possibility to become, in the longer term, a European Digital Infrastructure Consortium that then would have a streamlined route for other partners, for other member states to get onboarded, either as full members or as observers. So now the consortium consists of about half public, half private partners. We have a set of hospitals, including the leading hospitals in Europe. Charité as the #1 hospital, according to the Newsweek ranking, and the Karolinska Institute, which is affiliated with the Karolinska Hospital, which is #2 in Europe, according to the Newsweek ranking, and several other hospitals that provide access to valuable data, for example, but also infrastructure and clinical trial competence. We have certifying bodies, for example, the roof organization of the TÜVs in Germany, or the LNE, the National Testing Lab in France, or, for example, in Portugal, IPN, Instituto Pedro Nunes. But as also mentioned, we also have in the consortium standardization authorities such as, for example, the PTB, the National Metrology Authority in Germany. And they all work closely together and meet every week and in several additional meetings to come up with solutions together. So the ultimate goal is to provide the infrastructure and services that enable in the longer term even real-time compliance testing for AI systems. And with this, we serve AI innovators, SMEs, for example, who provide the products, the service providers who provide access to data and infrastructure and tools, and the authorized certifiers who also, to do the certification, need to have access to the proper infrastructure and data and code, for example. And the goal is to be able to do the testing largely in a digital form and to produce, according to the test protocols, results that then are getting aggregated and result in trust labels that can be categorized again for different features. This is just an illustrative example here: justice, transparency, reliability, accountability, environmental sustainability, privacy. So this can actually vary depending, or the trustworthiness can vary depending on the category and depending on the use of the AI system. This can lead then to differential decisions whether the trustworthiness level is high enough or not. We had a big opening event, not only of TEF Healthcare, but jointly with the other three TEFs, the opening for business celebration in Berlin in March 2024, this year, where all the four TEFs were coming together and were inviting to celebrate the opening for business. The other three TEFs are in the fields of manufacturing, agriculture, and smart cities. And we have a very close collaboration. So we use the synergies amongst the four TEFs to make sure that we use the resources that are available economically and are getting aligned in the provisioning of services to the different stakeholders. We had politics involved in this opening event. And also importantly, we had invited SMEs in particular. We had a service market where all the available and already published services were exhibited and could be explored by the customers, the SMEs and startups mainly. This is our website. There are 3 action buttons. There you find it under TEF-Health.eu. And the action buttons lead you to the main categories of services that we are presently providing as TEF-Health. So the first one leads you to an interactive form where service providers can provide all the information to characterize their services and can submit it. It will be then curated by the TEF-Health curation team. There will be a quality check. And if this has been passed, then the service will be added to our knowledge graph that is open to the public and can be discovered by, for example, SMEs and startups. And this is exactly the button that leads you to this knowledge graph where all the services richly annotated can be explored. I show you how this looks in a moment. In the first 5 years, we are receiving, as mentioned before, support also from the member states. And the support is passed on to the SMEs, the customers of our services, as discounts. So we are providing discounts in order to be compliant with state aid. This is done in a democratic and transparent manner in the form of open calls. And via this button, you will find the presently open calls where SMEs have the opportunity to apply for these services and get access to the services at discounted prices. And this is a knowledge graph. Yeah, if you hit the leftmost button shown in the previous slide, then you will get there. And you can use keyword search, similar like in Google. You can search for different keywords of a service that you are interested in, but there are also many filter functions. For example, you can filter according to the region, the provider, also according to the fact whether the services are available in an open call with discounted prices and so forth. Yeah, and this catalog is growing. Now we have a little bit less, I think, than 300 services contained in the catalog, and the number is increasing over time. We are working on new services and inviting service providers to submit their services. So as I mentioned before, one important part of our TEF-Health infrastructure is secure, privacy-protecting infrastructure for exchanging not only health data, which are sensitive, but also, for example, sensitive business information, code, the AI algorithms that might be trade secrets, and so forth. And for this purpose, we already have certified infrastructure, trusted research environments that undergo not only information security certification, but also Euro privacy certification to make sure that the technical and organizational measures are sufficient for protecting the information and the data contained and exchanged in such infrastructures. This is an example that is operated by the Charité, a trusted research environment. And importantly, we are TEF-Health and the other TEFs are funded under the Digital Europe program, which fosters open source development, which is part of the security and sovereignty strategy of the European Commission. So this environment here, for example, is completely based on open source components. They're listed here. And with this, the security level can be increased, but also the level of autonomy. There's no dependency on specific vendors, for example. And the code is open source and can be used even if the vendor disappears from the market, for example. So importantly, there needs to be a very high information security standard, and there are different standards defined. ISO 27001, for example, we have here in Germany the BSI standard, and this gives you just a little overview of how such a trusted virtual research environment, as we are offering them in TEF-Health, is being checked for certain risks. We have here classified 47 elementary risks. We have 111 modules and checklists, and we have documented 2,328 security requirements, just to give you a feeling of what it means to provide a high level of information security. But it's not just about information security, it's also about data privacy, and this is linked to organizational processes. This is just an example of the organizational process of data sharing and providing access to sensitive personal data. This process is mapped on the requirements of GDPR and other regional and local relevant laws. You might have heard about the Euro privacy certifications. This is a relatively new seal that can be obtained for such infrastructures to certify that they are compliant with the GDPR and the requirements to ensure a high protection of data privacy for data subjects. We are running the infrastructure as a federated infrastructure. This is in line with the vision of the European Health Data Space, that there are several data centers, not one central data center that can be operated independently, but that are interoperable. And presently, for this health data cloud and trusted virtual research environment, for example, developed at the Charité, We are providing this infrastructure as part of several European projects. Yeah, this is an incomplete visualization, but it gives you an idea. These are the European projects. These are the different partners of these European projects. And they all use it for exchanging data, health data, or making health data fair and discoverable. And discoverable means not that the sensitive data are being shared, but the metadata that are not sensitive are being made available via a so-called knowledge graph. You have seen the knowledge graph for our service provisions. And eBrain's European Research Infrastructure has developed this tool and provides presently a single entry point to a multitude of data sets that can be discovered and that can be obtained with a clearly outlined workflow from the different data centers in compliance with the law. Yeah, so foremost, if it is health data, the legal basis for processing is being determined, the roles of potential controllers and processors, and so forth. So everything is done in compliance with the applicable laws. And with this infrastructure being available, it becomes now possible to draw or pull the data from many different sources. Importantly, of course, there are also standards in development. For example, reference coordinate systems for such brain models that can be used. And once they are applied and documented for the data, and there are APIs, interfaces, and the different infrastructures, it becomes easy to pull the data together. So, for example, here we have a brain model of a real patient, and we complement it with data coming from microscopic investigations of brains of diseased persons. Yeah, so there's a combination of different data sources. And this is very useful. So this is one of my last slides here. But what you can see here is again such a patient brain of a patient with Parkinson's disease. And there are some reconstructions, for example, of the fibers. You see the high resolution MRI data. But this brain is also complemented with this microscopic data. And here you see obviously an electrode for deep brain stimulation. This is a type of treatment done in Parkinson's patients who have motor and movement symptoms. And these electrodes usually are inserted in deep structures of the brain, the basal ganglia, and they have many different contacts. And the question is now how best to stimulate these deep structures. Yeah, and we are now complementing this brain with a lot of additional information coming from different data sources, and can run the stimulation in silico and simulate the effects not only here locally in the deep structures, but we see also in the simulation the effects on the different cortical regions and so forth. And this is very helpful, and hopefully soon will lead to a certified and trustworthy application that benefits patients with brain diseases. And with this, I come to an end. I want to end with pointing to our website once more, where we have published the open calls for SMEs that can apply to get support to bring their high TRL level products to the market. So we invite, in particular, SMEs with products that have achieved a TRL, a technology readiness level of 6, to apply so that we can support them to go through the certification and testing to obtain the required validation to go to the market. And with this, I end my presentation. More information can be either found on the website, or if you have questions, please feel free to contact us via this email address. Thank you very much.